So shame is a big one, I think, when we're talking about any type of healing, and I think it's something that gets missed in the practitioner world a lot, or doesn't get spoken about enough first up. And we can go to the food and we go to the movement and all the stuff that's obvious. But I see time and time again, there's always this underlying current of shame and shame around our bodies. And that's sometimes the thing that will drive us to create change and go, oh my gosh, this is just, you know, it's the thing that will drive us, rather than having this love and respect for ourselves, that we actually really want to look after ourselves and have the best for ourselves. And there's a big difference. And so we can come from this place of, I'm not good enough, and it can be it can also then be what's blocking us, like this underlying feeling of unworthiness and shame. And we all have shame. If you've ever read any of Brené Brown books, shame is a very common, it's a totally normal human emotion. But if we're not conscious of our shame, it can then manifest as destructive behaviors, and we will self-sabotage. And that's what I want to talk about today, because there's a lot of self-sabotaging behaviors that we're just like, oh, why do I do that? And underneath that can be deeper feelings of shame and unworthiness that if we don't look at them and we don't peel back the layers, then we're never going to go and get to the real root cause. And I strongly believe, based on my own experience and what I see with other people, that we've got to start to have these conversations and really start to look underneath our own hood to go, okay, well, what am I feeling, and what are my beliefs around myself and around my body, and is that, how is that playing out subconsciously? What am I doing that's affecting me, and how can I rewire that? So there's a couple of things. Body shame, it's stopping you from getting the body you want and the health you desire. It can stop you. And I think for a lot of people, this is the elephant in the room. I'm going to talk about tonight as well how we know that shame's in the driver's seat. And I think as I talk, you know, a lot of, if you're watching this and it resonates, let me know in the comments. But for a lot of us, it can totally be the thing that is, yeah, it's the elephant in the room. We need to talk about it. We need to have a conversation around it. So, and then what we can actually do to start to heal that, because if you are watching this and it resonates and you're like, shit, this is me, oh my gosh, what do I do? Knowing you've got these dark alleyways that haven't been explored. It's sort of like, it's like this darkness that we need to shine the light on. And then we can shine the light on it. It's actually not that bad. It's never as bad as what we think. And when we start to, and this is my intention with this conversation, is I want to shine the light on body shame more, so that you can go, I'll be like, oh yeah, me too. That's what me too is all about. It's actually going, yeah, I'm just sharing with you vulnerably what I've experienced and what I've gone through, and also so that you feel normal, and also know that it's like, okay, well, this is something I want to look at and deal with, and potentially, hopefully by the end of this, feel like you will get something out of it, and go, okay, and I'm going to do something about it as well, because I can't just keep ignoring it, because you keep pushing it away, and it will bubble up and explode. So I think in the last few years, I've really discovered that I have had a lot of body shame, and I've shared this before in other videos, and it's really resulted in me having lots of destructive behaviors they're not like crazy, you know, like there's different levels of how we decide to play out of destructive behaviors. And sometimes when you're in that spectrum of doing destructive behaviors, but they're not so outside the scope that it just gets overlooked and it's fine, it's not a problem. And so subconsciously, like, for example, eating, being addicted to sugar, or not exercising, or those types of behaviors, or procrastination, or all those things that we do, and then they're drinking alcohol, taking drugs, and then it starts to go using different shopping addictions, food addictions. All of those we can use to essentially not feel the shame. We're running away from the way we're feeling. But the problem is that a lot of these behaviors, unless we're willing to go inward and look, no one else is going to do it for us. And we can keep going on and keep going on and keep getting frustrated. And we've got to actually be willing to go, enough is enough. I need to actually start to look at what it is that I'm believing about myself and how I was programmed as a kid that's actually creating these patterns in my life, and how are they showing up for me? Because how they show up for me is different how they'll show up for you, to show how they'll show up for the next person, right? But there's some common patterns that will happen. And so I know I was running from shame for a lot of time. I don't think, the way shame for me has showed up has been on my skin. And I had body shame in a relationship. I was in a relationship that I was actually body shamed by my partner. But it was a mirror back at me of what I was going through and the way that I viewed myself, which is such a hard pill to swallow. And at the time I was like, no, I've got to leave. I've got to go through this, but I can really see now, looking back, I'm like, that was just a total mirror of what I was going through and the way that I viewed myself. And he was just, pointing all the bits out that I hated about myself, and just reminding me all the time. And then getting triggered and then reacting and And so shame for me has shown up in lots of different places. And it's not just been my body or my health, but then there's behaviors that I have done that will, when I'm feeling shame, I will be my default. And we all have these. And so what we've got to do is actually go, like I said, start to unpack it, start to rewrite it. And so ultimately these feelings of shame, they come from our not enoughness. And there's always this element of, I'll be good enough when I lose the weight, when I clear the skin, when I fit into the dress, when I fit into my swimwear, I'll be happy when, and then I'll be lovable, then I'll be worthy, then I'll be good enough. And there's got to be this shift within us where we actually go, I am lovable as I am, and we've got to learn to really, really connect to that unseen and unheard part of ourselves, rather than going, I'll be good enough once I've got the money, got the dress, got the girl, got the guy, got the house, got the clear skin, I've lost the weight, I fit into the dress, I look amazing. Because if you still fundamentally have that belief around yourself, you're not going to emanate beauty, and you're not going to really glow from the inside out. You know what I'm talking about when you see people who, and we all know this, we even see people who may be larger than the ideal size, or maybe not your typical beauty that's what perpetuated in media and in social media, but they've got this vibrancy and this aura around them that is magnetic. And it's because they are comfortable of who they are in their being and their essence, and it's got no reflection on the outside world, and they don't need anything from anyone else. And that is sexy. Like that is beautiful. That is like, and that's that's what I want. That's what I want for myself and for everyone, because that's who we are in. And think about when a baby is born, they are pure. There's this essence. They haven't been their knowledge, their beauty of their knowing of who they are has not been inflicted yet. And then they do not doubt themselves. They just know. They know that everything is going to be provided for them. They know they're amazing. They can just be amazing. Everyone thinks they're amazing without even having to do anything. And then at some point that shifts. And when we get taught that we must do something to be lovable, we must behave, we must conform, we must do the right things, we must be good, and it's conditioned into us to receive love. And then we have these moments where we don't feel worthy enough, and we don't feel safe, and we give it to meaning that we're not lovable, and we can only be lovable if we do this. And there's this conditional love. And as much as our parents say that they love us unconditionally, there are still lots of conditions around our primary caregivers and our teachers and our mentors in our life, particularly at a young age. And then it keeps going and then moves into, adulthood, where it is conditional. It's I'll be, I will love you, I'll be your friend, I'll be your partner if you tick all these boxes. And there is this element of condition, and we've all been through that. And so from that then comes this feeling of unworthiness, and we've got to prove ourselves and this is what I went through. It's like I went through my whole 20s trying to prove myself to my dad mostly, and to other people that I'm enough. And then until I actually started to rewire it and learned that I need to give that to myself. And fundamentally, a lot of that is through inner child work and other therapies and plant medicines and all sorts of courses in personal development. But the real fundamentals of it is you can do all the personal development in the world, and you can still have this core belief, read all the books, all the self-help books, all that stuff, that you're not good enough, and you've got to learn how to do that. And for me, it's been inner child work that has been the game changer for me. And so being conscious of what I want you to do is I want you to ask yourself, it's like, what are you saying to yourself when you're looking in the mirror? What are you saying to yourself when you're trying on clothes? What are you saying to yourself when you see yourself in photos? Are you picking out all the faults? Because we do that. We get conditioned to that. And we've also been taught to do that through the way that our parents looked at ourselves. How did your mum look at herself, talk about herself? How did she look after herself? And then how was that passed on to you? Same with your dad, if they were both in your life. And so we're constantly going through, we've got this little voice in our head, and we're talking to ourselves like shit, and we're talking to ourselves trash to our body. We're not appreciating our body, right? And we just all have shame. It's normal. It's normal to have shame. There's nothing wrong with you if you're talking to yourself like this, but we've got to start to rewrite the story. And it comes from our primary caregivers, but I think it also comes from growing up in a society where we have to conform. And so things like social media, when I was a kid, it was magazines. Now it's social media, porn. How do people learn about sex now? Through porn. And there's this comparison game. It's like playing the comparison game. The way that we spoke to ourselves, the way that we were taught around sex, around our body, the way our parents spoke to each other, respected each other, the way sex was spoken about, the way we learn about sex, our experiences as we grew up and moved from being a child into adulthood. What impact did that have? What traumas were there along the way? Whether they be big traumas or little traumas. it all has an impact, and it builds our model of the world. And then we have these things that we hold on to, like big rocks. We carry around them with us. And I have clients that I work with, and when we start to unpack a lot of the beliefs, or we'll start looking at the behaviors that they're doing and the beliefs that they're saying to themselves, or they've got themselves, it comes to this, down to this fundamental core belief of I'm not good enough. And sometimes there'll be some sort of trauma or something that's happened where actually we need our ego, which is the dark part of us, is there to protect us. And our body is behaving a certain way as a protective mechanism. And so I've seen this with, particularly with weight, like women going, I feel that weight is protective, and they're not aware that that's what it is, but there's this subconscious protective mechanism, or it's same with skin, same with, and it's going, why is this happening? And so when we're looking at things that's going, we want to look at the biochemical, we also want to go, what is the underlying beliefs that we have around ourselves, and what shame is being held in our body that isn't being acknowledged and seen and heard and needs to be released, you know, and where did this come from? And so how do you know if shame is in the driver's seat? Here is how you know. You have habits that are destructive. You're still watching this. You have habits that are destructive. You compare yourself to others, which I think we all do. So this is what I mean. This is all that, but there's healthy levels of shame and there's destructive levels of shame. Now, healthy levels of shame is like, my interpretation of this is, well, we wear clothes because otherwise we'd be naked. And that's not really like, we're ashamed enough. There's a level of embarrassment and shame to go, oh yeah, we're going to wear clothes because everyone else is wearing clothes, and that would be weird. I'm going to be polite, you know, like there's a level of healthy shame. And if you act a certain way, you know, say for example, you acted a certain way and you were ashamed of it. Ashamed is different to shame. Shame is about the self, like I'm not good enough. So you can have shame around your actions and your behaviors, but that fundamentally doesn't actually mean that you're not a good person. I'm talking about the shame that is deep inside, that's like heavy and dark, and I'm not good enough, and it sits there like a dark seed, and it needs to be acknowledged and seen, and we carry it around with us our whole life, and then it's manifesting in different forms. That's the shame I'm talking about, right? And so you're comparing yourself to others, you can't take compliments, you feel embarrassed when someone gives you a compliment, you can't receive, you're blocked off from receiving. You never look at yourself and think there's something good about yourself. I'm particularly talking around the body image today, but, you know, it applies to everything, right? Particularly also intimacy, the way that we show up the world, the way we carry ourselves, it all has a knock-on effect, right? We're constantly chasing something better, like, you know, once I lose the weight, I'll be better then, I'll be better when my skin clears, when I'm stronger, when I'm fitter, when I've, you know, got the better clothes, got the better outfits, I'm making more money, all that stuff, right? You have perfectionist tendencies. So you've got to, like, everything's got to be perfect because of the fear of being rejected. And you may hide your body, cover it up, dress in a way that doesn't flatter you, all of those things. And so that's normal, but how is it then there's elements of it normal, and then going, okay, then what behaviors are those things driving, and how is that playing out? Because if you're holding on to this level of shame in your body, and you're in a situation where you are feeling vulnerable, so you're talking to someone face to face, or you're in a situation where you don't feel comfortable, it could be intimately, with a partner, it could be within a group of friends, whatever the situation. There's then going to be this level of inauthenticity because you're not in yourself and you're not being present because all you're thinking about is that thing. This happens a lot with skin and weight. A lot. Oh, I'm not good enough. What's she thinking of me? Oh, she's so gorgeous. I'm not like her, etc., etc. We women tend to compare ourselves to each other particularly. And so that starts showing up, and then what behaviors is that having a knock-on effect? Is it stopping you from going out? Is it stopping you from living your life? Is it stopping you from speaking up? Is it stopping, how is it showing up in your life? So an exercise I've been doing recently with a lot of people is, and myself actually, shining the torch of awareness onto where am I holding shame onto in my body, and starting to get conscious about that and get honest with yourself. And this is a really good journaling exercise where you can start to have a conversation with that part of your body. Or you can even do this exercise where you can free write and go, my body is, or I deserve. So I deserve a healthy, fit, vibrant body. I deserve clear glowing skin. I deserve, whatever that statement is for you. And then you can wait for the answer, because the answer will come, and you've got to free write. So you've got to just write and go and wait for the answer. So my body is, or I deserve, and free write. Keep doing it. My body is, 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 until you get down to like the nitty gritty of the dirty answers. And then you can say, where did you come from? And you can sit there and you can actually meditate a little bit on it and keep asking it. So where did you come from? It came from dad, it came from mum, it came from being bullied at school, it came from all of this. And why are you here? Why are you still here? Because that was ages ago. Why are you here? To protect you, to keep you safe. There'll be other answers, obviously, and it's a really interesting conversation to start, like dialogue to start with yourself. And so just start to bring awareness into, how do I think about my body, and give yourself the opportunity to journal, to write, to express it down on paper. You may want to talk it out and just be like, this is, how do I feel about my body at the moment? What's holding me back? What's getting me in the way of what I want? And what do I feel? How do I feel about and what's the thing that I think if I can get it solve will fix it? And how, like if you're obsessing with or really wanting to fix keep using weight and skin as examples because they're such good ones, but there's an issue with your body that you're not happy with, right? And it might not be an issue. It could be just something like you don't like your hips, or you don't like your breasts, or you don't like your hair. I used to hate my hair, by the way. And then you wish it would be different because you want to fit in, because you don't feel like you belong. But you can go through all those areas, and the areas that you're not happy with, and just start to go through and have a conversation with those parts of your body. Go, why are you here? Where did you come from? And start to peel back the layers of that. That's the first step. And then I would say you may most likely need some help to work through it, because doing it on ourselves is very difficult. So get a mentor or get a coach or get someone to guide you through that process, who is going to be able to help you unblock that and rewire it. And this is where affirmations can come really into power. But I think doing affirmations without doing the healing work is almost like a Band-Aid approach. It works to a certain extent, but have you ever done an affirmation where you're like, bullshit? You do it and you're like, you say it and you're like, bullshit. That's bullshit. That's a good indicator. So it's like, why don't I believe this? Where did it come from? Oh, it came from mom, because that's how she used to talk to herself, or came from dad, or came from my brother or my sister, or whatever. Where did it come from? And for me, I then go and have a conversation with my younger version of myself and start to meet my inner child and basically go, that's not true. Like, and I talk to myself and have this beautiful dialogue where I'm parenting the version of myself. We've got to start learning to give ourselves what we need, and that's the only way that I have found so far to rewire myself and my beliefs. And it takes constant work, and that constant, peeling back the layers, because often we can find we'll have some sort of shame that we're holding onto, and we didn't even know that it was there. And it can be the thing that's stopping us. Because there's also the fact of, think about if we have shame, and there's benefits. If our body subconsciously believes that there's a reason for this manifestation or this behavior, and we don't think we're worthy of moving through to the other side of what we want, or there's fear around it, or we have a view, or here's the other one, what's our view of those type of people? Like, for example, those really fit people who wear tight gym gear, and what's your first thought about them when you see them? And you might be saying to yourself on a conscious level, yeah, I want that, I want that, I want that, I want that, I want that. And then you look at it and you go, oh, what a tart. Of course you're not going to get it. Because you're not looking at that going, I want that, because you have some belief about it that then, and this is a good example of this is, when people are trying to change their money beliefs, and then they look at people who are wealthy, and then they have this belief of, they're an asshole. What an asshole. Well, you're never going to do it, because you're looking at them going, they're an asshole, and you don't want to make money, you can't hold on to it because you think people with money are assholes. That's a good one. I had that one for a long time. Still working through that one, still comes up sometimes, not always. And now more in awe of people like that have this ability to manifest and create. But sometimes it can still be there. I've got to talk to that pattern. So same with beautiful women. It's like, wow. But if you look at them and sometimes go, oh yeah, she's a bitch. Okay, interesting. Because then you're not going to want to lose the weight or get the clear skin or look like you've have it all. Here's a good one. I believe I only had the realization recently that I believe that I can't have it all. I can't have the career, the money, the job, the dog, the family, and getting really honest with that. It's like, oh, that's a big one. I can't have it all. So you might have it in other areas. And then if you really want to work on a particular area when it comes to your health and your vibrancy or whatever it is you're working on, and then you can't there's this thing that's stopping you because you have this belief. So there's this element of beliefs, and then there's also the shame and this fundamental belief around ourselves. So what's my belief around what you want to get to, and what's the belief around me and who I am as a person? And is this going to be positive, and then is this going to be positive so that they can meet up and join? Make a little have a little beautiful party, It is so big. The shame part is huge. I can't even explain it, and it needs to be spoken about. The other thing is, sometimes when we talk about shame, like if someone shares with you about shame, just acknowledge them and say, okay, I can see that you're feeling that way. Because if you go, oh, you don't need to feel that way, you're gaslighting them. I noticed I have, my dad does this a lot. I said, you know, I'm feeling really embarrassed. I said it once to him a little while ago, I'm really embarrassed. He said, oh, you don't need to feel like that. And I realized, I was like, he's totally gaslighting me, because that was how I'm feeling. And it's like, well, don't tell me I'm not feeling like that, because that's how I'm feeling. So if people share their shame with you, just be conscious of it, but don't gaslight yourself, more importantly. So here's the thing that with shame as well, I can keep going on this topic. What the biggest thing is that we do is we gaslight ourselves. We don't acknowledge ourselves. We don't acknowledge how we're feeling about it, and we push it down. It's a little bit like trying to push a balloon or a soccer ball or a tennis ball below the water, and it keeps bouncing up, and we keep push it down and it bounces up. And so we just need to acknowledge the feelings. Stop running away from them. We need to, first step is finding the torch on them, but actually really acknowledging them. I missed that bit before. Acknowledge them and making them okay. It's okay to be that way. There's nothing wrong with that. And stop making yourself wrong for the shame, going, I just don't feel good about my body. What's wrong with me? Well, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just an indicator for you, or a roadmap for you of where you need to have more healing to do. You know, when we get triggered about something, it's a roadmap for us to go, oh yeah, okay, there's work for me to do there, because it's really bringing some stuff up in me and I don't know what it is and I can't control it. Okay, there's work to do there, you know. So use it as your roadmap and don't make yourself wrong for it. And it's okay to sit in the crappy feelings of shame. Shame comes up, it's really uncomfortable. This is why we go chasing all these other habits throughout our lives, to avoid the shame. We go drink alcohol, take drugs, go have sex. They're three pretty dominant ones. Eat food, you know, whatever the habit is. People watch porn, like whatever. And have addictions to living wild lives, or spending lots of money. That's another one that makes you feel good. You get a big dopamine hit from that one. But it's avoiding the feelings. We just got to sit in it and just not make ourselves wrong for it, and start to peel back the layers and understand that there's always an emotional reason that's driving our physical symptoms, because the body keeps score, our body keeps emotional score. And we can't do all the eating and doing all the drinking the water and doing the exercise and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, if we're coming from this place of I'm not good enough versus I am worth it, you're going to have completely different outcomes. And I'm just going to leave it at that one, because that's the root of it. It's like, what's your intention? It's my intention to beat myself into a pulp because I don't think I'm worth enough. I'm going to starve myself, or I'm going to, you know, punish myself. Or you're doing it from a place of I am just so worth it that I'm going to treat myself like a goddess, like a king, because I know I'm worth it. That's a massive difference. If you got any questions, please let me know. Please comment. Please share any insights that you had, and I will see you all very soon. Ciao.